7:58.
Okay, Mr. Chair, because you have, the board has acted on this, in order to reopen this for reconsideration, one of you who voted to approve that variance would need to make a motion for very narrow, just for consideration of conditions. Then you would need a second for that. And then you would vote on that. You need a majority vote in order to open it back up. If you get the majority vote, then you would have your discussion on whatever conditions you wanted. Then we would need another motion to add those conditions and a second for those conditions, and then a vote again. So that's where we would add.
Like an amendment or not? Just
Yes, you would be to add the conditions to the variance.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Clint.
I'd like to make a motion that we open this back up to add conditions to this variance.
I'd second that. All in favor, say aye. Or any discussion on that?
Just discussion, we're just opening up the first one that we approved, correct?
And only for the purpose of conditions, not for revoting, not for reconsideration of any of the criteria questions.
Expansion and the road right of way. Any other questions, discussion? Okay, we'll proceed to vote. Do a roll call vote on that. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Marvin?
Aye.
Brent?
Aye.
Myself is aye. Clint?
Aye.
Okay. Open up for discussion again. Okay,
And let's, for the sake of time, can we just really narrow it down to these conditions that you're wanting to add?
Okay, in your application, Dan, you had the bullets for the removal of the boathouse, the reduction of width, and, you know, getting down to the less than 25% impervious surface. And I'd like to add those as conditions. Okay? That's no problem with you, Dan?
Yeah,
Read them off.
Okay.
I agreed to 24.9, yeah.
Yeah, unless, yeah, the third bullet is maybe redundant about the 2 feet east, but whatever.
Yes, correct.
We understand that. Then you're removing the boathouse. Have you talked with anybody, soil and water, or the shoreline specialist about how you'd reclaim that area?
No, I have not.
Are you
I was
willing?
just gonna remove what was down there and try to put it back to the way it was, the sand, the grass, and leave it as
Yeah.
matching up with the existing shoreline.
Okay, I guess I thought possibly the help of the shoreline specialist might be useful to you. Do we need that as a condition, does anybody think?
I think just stated that it should be back to a natural state.
Okay,
Can I
And
make
if he
a,
needs help with that, he can reach out to somebody for that.
okay,
can I make a comment?
yes.
It's, the shed was only 5 feet by, 5 by 10 foot.
Oh,
so-
that's all it is?
Yeah, it was just a
Oh,
small
okay.
little shed, basically, is what it was. Not a big thing to drive a boat
Yeah,
into.
I don't
so.
remember
It's
from
just a
our
little
viewing.
small shed is what it was.
All right, okay. All right, I think Clint's suggestion is a good one. Then if you need help, there is help at Land Services or Soil and Water.
Okay.
And then the other one, measuring of the impervious surface, is that something you will do when you review? Or do we need somebody else, another party to measure to make sure it is under 25% as he's proposing?
Mr. Chair, so I'm seeing 2 conditions, the removal of the boathouse and return to natural state, and then reduction of the width of the driveway to a total of 9 feet. And those were the 2 things that were getting that impervious surface calculation under the 25%. So if those 2 things are done, we would be verifying the removal of the boathouse and the reduction of the width of the driveway by 9 total feet.
Okay. So wouldn't be necessary for a measurement of the total impervious surface? Okay. Dan also had mentioned here direction of the water towards the front of the property, which would be the roadside, I assume. I'd like to leave that in as a condition too, because that's what you propose to do.
Yep.
All right. So,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
I make a motion that we amend our approval of this variance to add these two conditions.
3 or 2? The
maybe
direction of
that
the
written
water to
down.
the front of the property?
Yeah, 3.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of the amended variance approval to include these conditions, say aye.
Aye.
I'll do a roll call vote. I'm sorry. Marv?
Aye.
Brent?
Aye.
Myself is aye. Clint?
Aye.
Motion carries. Sorry for muddying up the waters there at the end. So you'll be in contact with Land Services as to what you'll do next, I assume?
Okay.
All right, thank
I-
you.
Hope I go better than last time. I tried getting a hold and we have miscommunications or something, but, okay.
All right, thank you. Good luck.
That's, okay, one, for my own information. We had the 2 variants or questions. The first one was approved, correct? With these conditions.
Yes,
The second one was denied
yes.
until I do whatever I can do to come back here and talk to you guys again, correct?
I guess you could do that.
Or
So
what's my next step?
can I circle back with you during business hours? We do have 2 other agenda items that we need to get through.
Tomorrow or the
Yes.
next day or something? Okay.
Yes, yeah,
You'll call
and
me
we'll
or
just
I'll call you?
discuss the ins and outs of that.
Okay, you call me or I call you?
I'll call you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Okay, next on the agenda. Brett Spear, if the applicant would come forward. Application for a variance to allow more than 3 dwellings per quarter. It's in Ripley Township. No present address, a new property. Okay, if applicants would state your name for the record.
Brett Spear.
And I'm Riley Spear.
Okay, thank you. Staff report, please.
Okay, we have a variance request to exceed the allowable dwelling density within the ag zoning district. This is located in section 2 of Ripley Township. The ordinance reference for this is 604.9. And this is a plat map of Ripley Township, and the red dot is the location of the parcel. And then here's the variance request received from the applicant. Whoops, and a site drawing also provided by the applicant. And an aerial photograph outlined in red, and then some oblique imagery of the property as well. And then here are some site photographs taken at the viewing on the 10th of November. This is a newly created and purchased 7.1 acre parcel located in section 2 of Ripley Township. At the time this parcel was split from the original 19.6 acre parcel, the Land Services Department issued a certificate of review. Within that review, it was noted that the dwelling density had been met for the quarter and that a variance would be needed for development. The applicant is requesting a variance to exceed the allowable dwelling density of 3 per quarter within the agriculture zoning district. There are currently 4 dwellings within this particular quarter, and this request would be the 5th home. And then here is a map with the quarter turned on in pink and the location of the homes in that area. Although this area is zoned agriculture, the first half mile east of State Highway 371 exceeds the dwelling density standard on the north side of the road. On the south side of 263rd Street, which is also County State Aid Highway 49, there is a residentially zoned subdivision and associated Eagles Landing Golf Course. And here's an aerial photo of the neighborhood. The applicant had a septic system designer on site, and the designer verified suitable soils for a type 1 septic system exist. The applicable comprehensive land use plan goals is residential, goal B1, and the objectives listed below. Agriculture, goal A1 and A2. And then the water plan goals and objectives is the groundwater goal, objective B, and land use and development goal. 37 notices were sent. One comment was received prior to the public hearing, and that was from Shannon Wetstein from the Morrison County Soil and Water Conservation District. She stated, this property is within the Camp Ripley Army Compatible Use Buffer Program area, but is not enrolled in the program. It would not rank high for enrollment, as it is a 7-acre piece, and typically larger parcels rank high and are priority for future funding. All properties over 5 acres can be considered into the program. Our office would not have any issue with one house being located at this location due to the size of the parcel and the nature of the surrounding properties. And then here you're finding of fact and decision questions.
Okay, thank you. The applicants have anything to add at this time?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. We viewed the property on the 11th. Clint, myself, and Marv, and Amy, and Brent.
I drove out there today, so if you see some fresh tracks out there, those are mine.
Sounds good.
So it was the 10th, not the 11th? Oh, 10th is the viewing, okay. Thank you. All right. Any questions for the applicant? Staff? Karen's staff, too. We could ask her questions, all kinds of them.
No, just to know, I don't have no questions. When we were out at the site visit, looking at the parcel, talking with Brett here about what he was gonna do and looking at surrounding area, kinda answered all the questions that I kinda had, so I guess I didn't have any.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Mark.
Mr. Chair, I not necessarily have any questions, but I wanted to make a few comments. First question, I had brought up if he was familiar with ACUP, and he says, well, I live right across the road, and he's very familiar with Camp Ripley and respecting the ACUP deal. The next question, or I'll bring up, if we bring up the property, you'll see that there's a road going right through it, and it's a shared road, and I guess it sounds like, if I heard you correctly, that you will continue to share that with the property owner, the ag owner, and with that, that shows me that you're willing to work with the neighbor, and shows that ag property still shows as a priority to get to his rear property and still operate that property.
Correct, yes.
Any other comments? The only comment I make is I think applicants, you did a very nice job of this, on your variance request, and describing the situation there, your history in the area, and why you want to stay in the area, and what's found in the area. It's pretty much a rural residential area already.
Thank you.
So the request is consistent with what's happening in the neighborhood. All right. Are we ready for public input? Okay. Is there public input at this time?
Darv Kier, Ripley Town Board. Yeah, we discussed that last meeting, and we're all for it because there's that many houses. It's all houses up there, and one more isn't gonna hurt anything, and stuff, so that'll be a good thing, we figure, so, okay.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other public input at this time? Any other public input at this time? If there's no further public input, we'll close the meeting to public input and get on with the criteria questions here. Started with Marv, didn't we, tonight? So I guess we got to start with me. Then we'll go to, okay. Get my sheet in order here. Okay. Is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan? This is more a planning commission question, but also like to add that there's already an approach there that's being used. No additional approaches are being added. That's in harmony with the intent of ordinance. protects ag land, it allows residential where there is no conflict, which is part of the ordinance. And it's already residential in use, as the applicant pointed out. There's 10 residents right in a row there, and you just complete the dominoes. Okay, any other input on question number 1?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
put it pretty simple. When I read through our comprehensive land use plan goals that's printed in paper here, they check off every single one of them, this applicant. So I would say yes,
Okay.
it is in harmony.
Go ahead, Marv.
Mr. Chair, also, I wanted to point out something. This hits them, nail hits the head, or the hammer hits the head on the nail pretty hard on this one, and this is goal A2. It's to achieve appropriate balance between the continued and growing desire of people in certain business to locate in rural settings and still need to accommodate agriculture and other rural land uses. And you're accommodating both. You have the support of the township, you have the support of the neighbors. I mean, it fits in there. It only makes sense.
Okay, thank you, Marv. Any additions to number 1? Okay, number 2 is the applicant proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by land use ordinance. Clint?
Yes, most definitely. You look at the size of the lot, it more than accommodates what they want to do with it. It actually fits with our 5-acre minimum that we need in agriculture. And it's reasonable in the fact that, you know, yes, it is zoned agriculture, but if you look, it's maybe miszoned, maybe possibly. If you look at all the residential that's along there, it fits in, and it's definitely when we talk about sometimes smart development and what that land's going to get used for, it'll actually get protected by putting a home on it rather than getting logged out and turned into a field. And then we have some forestry there. I think it's just going to help the area to maintain that character of the area, and then also maintain and protect the agriculture with that size of a piece of property with the 7 acres or whatever it is. So I think putting a house in there and going over quota, I think it is really reasonable to what their ask is.
Okay. Anything else on number 2? On to number 3, will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Marvin?
I believe it will, and something else, point out, it is ag property, but it's very poor for growing something there other than trees, so here, once them trees grow up, you won't even know that home is there, and they're half grown already, and being right across the road, you have a residential area, it will just fit right very well in there.
Okay, anybody like to add to that? Okay, number 4 is alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property. Brent?
It looks like this was developed at some point into a 7.1 acre property. There's already 10 homes to the right and to the left of it along there and across with the golf course. That's creating the practical difficulty, and the practical difficulty requires us to look at this as a variance, so.
Okay. Clint?
Mr. Chair. I'd just like to add to the practical difficulty is if you just look at the area, this piece of property, what it is, it's just what's going on in that area is forcing the practical difficulty. This piece of property is almost destined to have a home just because of what else is going on as far as development in that immediate vicinity. It almost forces the practical difficulty of using that property for a home. And with meeting our quotas for our quarter, it's exceeding that. But I think the surrounding properties and what the property uses are, it just forces that to become a practical difficulty.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. It's already rural residential in character and not ag, doesn't impair any ag use. it's, the practical difficulty is the present zoning possibly, and it's difficult to rezone. But, so, anybody else on number 4, practical difficulties? Number 5 is the issuance of the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners. I'm supposed to start that. Lack of places to build, actions of the neighborhood, previous land use permits that are over, in some places close by, over the 3 per quarter already. This is in character with all of that. And it's, those actions created the need for this variance today. Anybody else on number 5? Number 6, does alleged practical difficulty involve more than economic considerations? Clint?
Oh, definitely. Like I said, we talked up and down on these previous 5 questions on just, having a spot to build a house, what that land use is gonna be used for. It just makes total sense. It's kind of forced by the surrounding area. So yeah, it's more than just economics. It's just what that particular, road or the population of and the homes along that road, what it's forcing this property to be used for. So that's more in the considerations of what the economics are, so.
Okay, anybody else? Yeah, also referring back to the applicant's, the application and how the 6 questions were answered, very well answered. Any of those reasons could stand up as good reasons to vote as we're going to here. So, are we ready to vote on the questions?
Any conditions?
Any conditions? Yeah, we don't want to go there again, do we? You're the meanest guy I know. He's got a bad back tonight, that's why he's a little cranky. Any conditions, anybody? Okay, we're ready to vote. Is the request in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan? Myself, yes. Clint?
Yes.
Marvin?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance? Clint?
Yes.
Marvin?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Number 3, will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Marvin?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Clint?
Yes.
Number 4, is alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? Brent?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Clint?
Yes.
And Marvin?
Yes.
Number 5, is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners? Myself is yes. Clint?
Yes.
Marvin?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Number 6, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? Clint?
Yes.
Marvin?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
And myself is yes. All the questions that have been answered affirmative. Is there a motion to grant this variance request?
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion.
I would like to second that.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? No discussion. We'll proceed to vote. We'll take a roll call vote. All in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. Marvin?
Aye.
Brent?
Aye.
Myself is aye. Clint?
Aye.
Motion carries. Have fun.
Thank you guys so much for your time.
Yes, thank you guys.
Good luck with it.
So contact land services to finish and go through all of it, but
Okay.
good luck.
Thank you. You will enjoy it, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda, or do we want another 5-minute recess?
No.
No, we don't, okay. Is Matt and Christina Gallus, application for a variance to add on to a non-conforming home within the setback to a feedlot located in Two Rivers Township. Applicants, please state your name for the record.
Matt and Christina Gallus.
Okay, thank you. Staff report?
Mr. Chair, this is a variance request to encroach on the setback from a feedlot with a dwelling addition. This is located in section 20 of Two Rivers Township. The ordinance reference is 1208.1. And here's a plat map of Two Rivers Township, and the red dot is the location of the parcel. And here's a variance request received from the applicant. And a site drawing also provided by the applicant. Here's an aerial photograph of the parcel. It's outlined in blue. And then here's some oblique imagery of the property. And then here's some site photos taken at the viewing on the 10th of November. Again, the property is in section 20 of Two Rivers Township, and the applicant lives and operates a Tier 1 beef and chicken feedlot on this 46.61 acre parcel. Immediately to the west is a Tier 1 chicken feedlot on 5 acres, and there is another aerial photograph with the feedlot layer turned on, so you see the green dots for the registered feedlots. This feedlot was once a part of the operation the applicant owns. According to a contract for deed filed in the recorder's office, the 5-acre feedlot was split from the farm in April of 1998. Minimum feedlot acreage and setbacks were adopted by the county in August of 1998. With adoption of the feedlot standards in August 1998, this resulted in a nonconformity for the following reasons. The feedlot to feedlot standard setback of 660 feet is not met, and the 660-foot feedlot to non-feedlot resident setback is not met. The applicant owns the remainder of the farm. The dwelling is located approximately 295 feet from the nearest animal holding area of the feedlot to the west. The applicant is proposing to construct an attached garage onto the dwelling. The addition will further encroach an additional 15 feet on the feedlot to the west. The feedlot to the west would already require a variance to expand for the following reasons. The minimum feedlot acreage is not met. The setback from the road right-of-way cannot be met. Feedlot to feedlot setback cannot be met. And the feedlot to the existing non-feedlot residents cannot be met. The feedlot operator to the west, his name is Jeff Solars. He submitted a letter of support for the request that was in your packet. The applicable comprehensive land use plan goals is agriculture, goal A1, objectives 1 and 4, 8 and 8, and then goal A2 and A3, A4 and objective 1, and objective 3. And then the water plan goals and objectives is the groundwater goal, goal 1 and 2, surface water goal, objective A. Land use and development goal, objective A. 21 notices were sent. 1 comment was received prior to the public hearing, and I will read that. Let's see. This is from Joe Klein. He stated he is not in support of the request. For a garage and mudroom home addition, he said he might have changed his mind if they had first completed the catch basin in their field for stormwater runoff from their new west chicken barn. And he also stated that they had previously planned on building a solid manure stacking slab, but that has not been funded. So he feels that there are projects that until their other projects are completed, he is not in favor of allowing a variance to build the attached garage because it would be too close to a feedlot and too close to the property line. All right, and then there are your finding of fact and decision questions, Mr. Chair.
Who did you say that was from?
Joe Klein, a neighbor.
Oh, just a neighbor, not a township official,
No.
not a, okay,
No.
all right. All right, thank you. And then you already went over the one comment from Jeff Solars.
That was in your packet and it was mentioned in my presentation, yes.
Yep, and he was in favor of this request. Okay. Does the applicant have anything else to add to the staff report at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right. You've seen how this goes. We will probably have some questions. All right, questions for the applicant, staff?
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Mark.
Okay, I understand. First question I have, it sounded like for biosecurity reasons, you wanted to put this addition on, just keep your clothing separate. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We have 4 children, and with if you have anybody come over, we need to keep that part separate. We need to keep our boots separate, our clothing separate for biosecurity. We're not really able to do that, being the entrance of the house. Everybody has to come through that same way. There's no way to keep anything separate from anybody that may visit us, a neighbor that may have a couple of chickens, that we can't have that for biosecure reasons.
Okay, as a note, I was in that house numerous times when his father had it, and it's a very tight coming in entrance area, so I confirmed there really is no area for putting clothing separately but just confirming that. And I don't know if the rest of them know Jeff Solers is your brother, and here, my question was to Christine before we came out there was, when Jeff is ready to retire, it sounds by his letter, he's ready to retire. Are you thinking of purchasing that property from him and assuming it back in the original farm?
Yes, that is the plan, to put that back into the farm again.
Yeah, and typically, well, Pilgrim's Pride, them old barns like that, they don't fill them back in, and he's just buying time.
Yep.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. That is all I have at this moment here.
Okay, thank you, Marv. Clint?
Mr. Chair. Maybe Amy can ask, so these bullets I'm looking at, minimum feedlot acreage is not met. I thought for tier 1, that ain't 70, is it? I thought that didn't bump up to 70 till tier 2.
Mr. Chair, let me just get to the slide that you're referring to here. So this slide is talking about the addition, what this slide is telling you is the addition of this garage would not, on its own, would not be putting that feedlot to the west in a variant situation. Because it's already in a variant situation because it sits on 5 acres. And from the road right of way and all that. So I'm sorry, what was your question?
Well, it just says minimum feedlot acreage is not met.
Yes, so a tier 1 feedlot needs to be on 20 acres and that's on 5.
Yeah, but it's tied in with that other.
It's not, it's on its own property.
She's talking about
I'm
Solers
talking about the Solar's property.
Oh, I'm just looking at theirs.
No, and so that's
Okay, I see what
generally
you're saying.
when you're looking at variances, you're looking at how is that going to impact the feedlot that we're allowing them to encroach on.
Yeah.
And what this is telling you is there's all sorts of other things going on
Yep.
where there's already variances would be needed for
Yeah.
that because of those reasons.
So then, to go along with that, the setback from road right away, we're talking about the other 2 chicken barns, not theirs.
That's
Okay.
correct. So I'm just giving you all
Yep.
all
Yep,
the
okay.
reasons why that would be in a variance situation just on its own with or without the granting of this variance.
Okay. So yeah, I was questioning them, and then, okay, I guess that's all I really have for questions, other than just a comment that, looking through this, I don't know, we're gonna have probably more of these in the future, probably not a ton of them, but we'll have more with some of these things going on with families and things, but, just a big overview for something people to think about is, from my experience in ag, that house is gonna be there a lot longer than them chicken barns. I know we have to look at our ordinances and our setbacks and all them things. But putting a garage on there on a farm, with tracking stuff in, like they said with biosecurity, I think it's kind of a must to have the entrance to come in like that. Them are some things to look at. You know, they talked about trying to purchase that. We can't make decisions on assumptions.
Right.
And I just kind of set an assumption that that house will be there longer than them barns, but common sense will tell you that too. So just some things to think about as we're moving forward on these questions is thinking about some of that. I guess that's what's running through my head is, think that this farm site and their house and putting a garage on there is gonna be there a lot longer than that neighboring feedlot. I know it's all really close and things got split the same year that they changed the ordinance. I don't agree with a lot of ordinances, but we have to still follow them and look at them. So that's just some comments for people to think about as we move forward.
Amy, if we denied this variance request, they could still build that same structure but unattached to their house and get an over-the-counter permit?
They would have 2 options, a detached garage that, and then it wouldn't need to meet the setback from the feedlot. Or if they weren't further encroaching on the setback, then they would be able to do an attached garage, because there is a provision in the ordinance that allows expansion as long as they're not further encroaching.
All right. Some of the observations from the one neighbor here on, I didn't quite follow it, but on your present beef feedlots, I'm assuming, right? Is that what those were, comments on?
Well, we also have a tier 1 chicken barn.
Yep.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, and I was just wondering if the feedlot officer has weighed in on this.
Yes. Mr., I'm just
I
gonna
don't know that it's even
pull,
relevant to their request, but
it's not.
Yeah.
But, Mr. Chair, I'm just gonna pull up an aerial photograph. Okay. So, this whole property is a tier 1 feedlot.
Yes.
It did not need a conditional use permit to be established because it's tier 1. So everything is compliant on this lot. There is no requirement or condition on this feedlot to build a stacking slab or to have a catch basin. There is, in this area, there are water moves in a particular way that it runs through other people's property. And there are some natural holding areas, but in kind of, historic rains, the water's gonna move how it always has historically moved. So as far as looking at anything to do with the feedlot operation, it's outside the scope of what you're considering tonight.
But it is a compliant feedlot.
It is a compliant feedlot,
That's
yes.
really all I wanted to know, whether it's related or not. It's because it was mentioned in the letter, so, okay, thank you. All right, anything else? Ready for public input? Okay. Is there any public input at this time? Our friends all left. We scared them away. Any public input? If there's no public input, we'll close the meeting to public input at this time and continue on with the criteria questions.
Mr. Chair, do you
Criteria
want
questions?
Mr. Chair, do you want to add your viewing process to this application as well?
Let me viewed.
Oh, just put on the record that you viewed.
Oh, that we viewed, yes. For some reason, I'm not really hearing back on these very well. Could be me. Yes, we viewed the property on the 11th. That was myself, Clint, and Marv, and Amy, and Brent.
I viewed it today.
Okay. The 10th. I wrote the 11th down here. It had to be the 11th. The 10th. Thank you. All right. We're ready for the questions? Is requesting harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan. Clint, you're starting out.
Again,
Again? How'd I do that? I'm sorry.
no, like I stated in the last one, if we look at our comprehensive land use plan and goals, there's nothing that I read through them that this gives a red flag with. So I would say it's in harmony, other than, we're looking at the setback from the feedlot and, the setbacks. But as far as putting a structure there, it's in harmony with our land use ordinance and comprehensive plan, other than maybe the setbacks. And then if they did not attach it, then they could build, and want to encroach. But when we're looking at it, I always have a hard time with that one. If it's touching or if it's 2 inches away, it's still the same area it's taken up. And when we get farther in, we'll talk about some of the other, but I would say yes on number one.
Okay, anybody like to add to that? Go ahead, Marv.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to add, with the biosecurity reasons here, they're trying to be proactive and prevent issues in the future by having their closed separate by building this. So with that being said, it creates more harmony in the plan.
Go ahead.
Just, Mr. Chair, I'd like to just add one thing to what my statement was. You know, when I look at objective 3, you know, it recognizes the issues of feedlots and animal confinement areas with other land uses such as residential and commercial development, utilize new and existing controls to minimize conflicts and issues. You know, a lot of these standards and objectives that we have in place, you know, a lot of our problems stem from residents to a feedlot. Here we got a feedlot residence to another feedlot. We don't necessarily see too many conflicts from farm to farm as we do from residence to a farm. So it's tough because you read through our ordinance and our setbacks and all of our rules that we have in place, but then you look at it, we generally don't have a problem with farm to farm. So it kind of messes with your mind a little bit. So I just wanted to state that when you look at objective 3, I think that's maybe pertaining more from a residence to a farm than it is from farm to farm or feedlot to feedlot per se.
Okay, thank you. Any other additions to question number 1? Okay, well, number 2, is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance? Marvin?
I believe so, and the first thing I pointed out was biosecurity reasons, but the other part is, as the applicant stated, in the not-too-distant future, their plan is to purchase the property next to it, and if that does happen, they wouldn't have to be going through this process right now. So here, they're just going through the proper process here, and then buildings probably will be shut down, or here, they would be assumed part of this farm.
Okay, thank you, Marv. Others? Okay. That was question number 1 or 2, Marv? I'm sorry.
That was number 2.
Okay, I thought so. Anybody else on number 2? Okay. Number 3, will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Brent?
I think it will. I mean, this is ag land. It's a farm already. There's several buildings existing on the property. You're not going to notice this in any appreciable difference by having an attached garage onto that home.
Okay. Anything else on number 3? Number 4, is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? That's my start. Well, what's unique is the split that caused this, the need for this variance. Boy, a very creative border around the dwelling and the feedlot there. And yeah, and as others have pointed out, and the applicant has pointed out, most likely to be remedied the day that the chickens leave the barn on the Solers property. So, in the meantime, this does not, the practical difficulty is what was done in the past that set them up for this moment in time, and also the changing policies of contract chicken growers and changing land use ordinance. All kinds of shifts gone on since that last minute before the world changed split of this property. So, anything else on number 4 as far as practical difficulty? Number 5, is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners? Go ahead, Clint.
Part of it, what he stated in your practical difficulty was the split, so that would be created by the prior landowner or whatever. But I think that basically the need for this variance is the need for this garage for an entryway to get into the home and having it be biosecurity safe. We all know with, what's going on with bird flu and them types of things and with birds and over the last 5 years, 10 years, 5 especially, biosecurity's been a huge thing in the poultry business. So I think the need for this variance comes from the actual need for the garage. and then just where we can put it, that's to be determined, but I think that's what drives the need. So I think the need is created for more than other than the landowners and the prior landowners. I think it deprives from just where the industry's going, and with our biosecurity and them types of things, I think is what really forces them to have this garage and for the biosecurity portion of it.
I guess I'd like to add that, oftentimes I argue that the variance is for the property, not for the landowner. And in this case, this is what's best for the landowner and what's best for the property and for the continued well-being of that property or continued proper use of that property. Whether that belongs under number 5 or 6 or 1 or 2 doesn't matter to me. But I think that would fit number 5. Anybody else on number 5? Number 6, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? Marvin?
I believe it does, and the reason why I say that is here, they've spent a bit of dollars trying to come up with a plan to be proactive, to prevent more issues coming upon their litter, and then also going through the work of visiting with a neighbor and having him confirm that, hey, I won't be running this property much longer and probably be assumed part of this here. So they're thinking about the whole picture, and as you pointed out, this makes sense for this piece of property. So they looked at much more than just economics.
Thank you, Marv. I think if we did not grant this variance, we would be forcing them to do something different that wouldn't be as good for them or the property. Building a structure that doesn't quite meet the property's needs, their needs, that isn't attached, yeah. And then it would affect how we'd answered the rest of the previous questions too. Anybody else on number 6? Okay, ready for the questions? Okay, let's vote. Okay, number 1 is the request in harmony with the general purpose intent of Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan. Clint?
Yes.
Marvin?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Number 2 is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance. Marvin?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Clint?
Yes.
Number 3, will the issuance of variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Brent?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Clint?
Yes.
And Marvin?
Yes.
Number 4 is alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property. Myself is yes. Clint?
Yes.
Marvin?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Number 5 is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners. Clint?
Yes.
Marvin?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Number 6, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? Marvin?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Brent, I mean?
Yes.
Myself is yes, and Clint.
Yes.
All right, all the questions have been answered to the affirmative. Is there a motion to grant this variance request?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to, us to grant this variance request.
I would second that.
Motion made in second. Any discussion? No discussion. We'll proceed to vote. Roll call vote. Aye in favor, nay against. Marvin?
Aye.
Brent?
Aye.
Myself is aye. Clint?
Aye.
Motion carries. Variance request granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, we've got minutes of the previous meeting. I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, minutes accepted. Any new business?
I do not have any, Mr. Chair.
Okay, old business.
None of that either, Mr. Chair.
Can we discuss just a little bit the cattlemen, because they are going to be coming up again?
Yes, I had staff out to the Cattleman property today. I did not have a chance to visit with staff when they returned, though, so I don't know what they found out, but the Cattlemans will need to change their application to add that additional variance for setback from the septic, and it'll get re-advertised. You'll get a new packet, you'll get all of that, so.
Will the come to a dirt meeting, do you think, another one, or not?
I doubt it.
Probably
They
not.
wouldn't need to. So, no, so anyway, that's where that one's at. So once we have that all figured out, but it won't come until at least December, because the deadline for the second November meeting is passed already, so,
Certainly a marvelous bundle of requests there.
yes,
And we don't have nothing for the next November meeting, correct?
that is correct.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Marv seconded.
Yep.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Meeting adjourned at 8:45.